Good evening and welcome to week 8 of Eat Clean, Get Lean. It's a absolutely beautiful night here in Manasquan, New Jersey, down the Jersey Shore. So for those around the country or wherever you're calling in from, temperature got up into the mid 80s today. Beautiful sunny day. Beach was crowded. Just a nice breeze coming off the ocean tonight. As soon as we're done, I'm going out for a little walk because I was cooped up in the office all day today, but that's good. That means people are coming out and exercising, learning about nutrition, and learning about why they need nutrition insurance. So we're going to talk tonight, and hopefully I'm going to dispel some myths. There are people I know out there who are eating whole, natural, organic foods, non-GMO, no food chemicals, no food additives, drinking clean water, filtered water, and I think that's all really great. But we need to dig a little deeper and see what it is that we need to do to have optimal health and wellness. And I can only give you the experience of my last 53 years, having been extremely healthy like I feel right now. I'm pretty much as strong as I was 20, 30 years ago. Even with some of the knee injuries and shoulder injuries and back injuries that I've incurred due to things like wrestling and rugby and football and ice hockey and that kind of thing. But every day when I lift in the gym, maybe my techniques and form is a little bit better than it was. I'm a little smarter than I was probably 20, 30 years ago, and I don't do things that are foolish. But you can maintain your health and vitality to a ripe old age. And that's not to put anybody down who's in their 70s or 80s, but I will tell you that one of my strongest women clients who's in her 70s, and I know she's listening, so I won't tell you how old she is, but next time you go to the gym, I want you to pick up 25 or 27.5 pound dumbbells, and I want you to lay down on your back on a bench, and I want you to bench press those and see if you can do it. Just be really careful. And that's what she does when she comes and trains with me. And she doesn't do it once. She doesn't do it 5 times. She does it 10 to 12 times. And I have another woman who's a little bit younger, and she is able to do that with 40-pound dumbbells. So I know some guys out there who can't do 40-pound dumbbells. So here I have this little 120-pound woman doing them. So it is a function of getting your sleep, drinking your water, having the right positive mental mindset, and doing your strength training with a little bit of aggressiveness to create a breathless and burning environment, just like we've talked about all this last 8 weeks. I hope everyone liked my talk last week that I didn't do, but was made available to everyone on adrenal fatigue. That happens to be one of my other favorite topics. And again, after we do these webinars, I always meet in Facebook. If anybody has any questions or concerns, I will be sure to answer those questions. At the end of our presentation, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a function we're having at KM Fitness tomorrow night. If you're in the southern Monmouth or northern Ocean County area and you'd like to come out and meet Jim Dowd, he's going to be at my studio tomorrow night talking about nutrition, a little bit of his experience with regards playing 17 years in the NHL and how important exercise and proper nutrition, sleep, and hydration were very, very important to him in sustaining him through his career, and why at 46 years old he can go out and still play in alumni hockey games and score goals. I saw him score 2 goals against Martin Brodeur in his alumni game this year, and he scored those 2 goals within about 3 minutes of each other. And I probably think those are the fastest 2 goals Martin Brodeur has ever given up in his entire life. So, it doesn't matter how old you are, because we know people that are in their 30s who act like they're 80, and I know people in their 80s who act like they're 30. So let's get into it a little bit. I killed enough time. I allowed people to get on the line. So we're in Eat Clean, Get Lean, Week 8, nutrition insurance and why we all need it. Well, question is, can I get all the nutrition I need from the food I eat? That's a very interesting question. Now, if you look at that nice slide, there's tomatoes and there's kale and there's other vegetables, and there's some berries there, all healthy, nutritious, organic foods from our kitchen, because that's my kitchen table you're looking at. Well, my question back to you is this. Do you live on an organic farm in California? Do you get plenty of vitamin D and sunshine? I should back up on that one. You know, she was standing in the water. One of the things that we talk about is grounding, getting your feet in direct contact with the soil, the sand, and the water. That's a whole nother talk we could do another night on grounding and discharging all the negative ions that we accumulate by being constantly surrounded by electricity and electronic devices all day. So grounding is another thing we could talk about. But are you grounded? Are you sleeping at least 8 hours a night peacefully? Or do you have a cat attacking you in the middle of the night? Do you exercise regularly? And how well do you manage your stress? Okay, so these are all important components to health and wellness. We talked about sleep. We talked about hydration. We talked about sunshine. We talked about energy. And now we're going to talk a little bit, we talked about exercise, of course. And how are you exercising? You know, that's very important. We've talked a lot about that over the last 12 weeks. And by the way, there are people online with us tonight that we invited. This topic was so important that I opened this up to everybody to come in and listen tonight. You know, as I sit and go through the initial consultations with my clients when they first come in, and I tend to deal with a more healthy population because the people who are coming to me want to exercise, they want to have good nutrition, they want to have optimal health and wellness, as opposed to when I was in physical therapy, where a lot of clients came in only because their doctor wrote them a prescription and they had to come, or it was a way for them to be able to stay out of work so they could use their time for physical therapy, out of necessity. And I will tell you, by an extreme number, greater than 75% of the people I saw in physical therapy did not get into a car accident, did not have an accident, did not have any kind of trip and fall. They had chronic overuse type conditions that caused them to be sick, whether it be a back, a knee, a shoulder. They ate poorly, they didn't stay hydrated, and they didn't exercise. And that's how they ended up in physical therapy. So that being said, so what happened to whole natural organic food? Well, it's still out there, but it's certainly hard to find. If you go into one of your major supermarkets, the organic section, I could speak about ShopRite, and they have a nice organic section, but it's buried in the back right-hand corner of the store. You have to kind of go look for it. So if the organic section has about 10 feet of shelf space, the conventional non-organic section is about 50 or 60 feet long, maybe even longer. Okay, so it's out there. You just have to find it. Now, what happened way back in time, I'll just read from my little slide here. Every year since the dawn of time, the mineral-rich mountain streams would flood the fields to ensure a healthy crop for the next growing season. The Nile, the Mississippi, the Amazon, all the major growing plains that fed the world. This happened every year during the big meltdown from the snow. The snow would come down and drag minerals from the mountains that would fill the streams, and the streams and the rivers would overflow, flood the fields, and deposit all that nutrient-dense material into the soil so that the crops would grow and absorb those nutrients, and then the animals and people that would consume those crops would also get the benefit of those minerals. Okay. But what's happened with civilization? Well, here's a dike that was built on the Mississippi to stop yearly flooding, thus stopping minerals from being distributed in a manner that was done for millions of years prior. When soil becomes depleted, the plants can no longer supply those vital minerals that you're looking for in your plant food, and neither can the cows, steer, pigs, and fowl you're consuming as well. So the animals that you're eating are also eating nutritionally deficient crop. Therefore, the protein that they produce, whether it be the meat or the milk, if you're looking at that from a dairy cow, cheese from the goat, whatever, or sheep, they're not as healthy as they were 200, 300 years ago. Therefore, we're eating plant food that's nutritionally deficient, and we're eating animal proteins, eggs, that are also nutritionally deficient. Now, you can buy grass-fed beef. you can get organic pork, you can get free range chicken, free range eggs, but you notice they're a lot more expensive. Okay, so this is the point in time with regards to organic foods, non-GMO foods, free range chicken, free range fish. This is where you decide where you're going to invest your money. Are you going to invest your money in really good nutrition so that you can have optimal health and wellness? Or are you going to invest your money in another bottle of wine or a fancy car or more additions to your house? I would say that I do treat some clients who traded their health to accumulate their wealth. And now they're spending their wealth to try to get back their health. But the truth of the matter is this: just like a car going over a cliff, sometimes you can't get it back. We always taught our kids that watch what you say, because the words that come out of your mouth are like toothpaste coming out of a tube. Once that toothpaste comes out, you can't stick it back in. So a lot of people have lost their ability to exercise aggressively enough to start to really improve their health. And they've had things like joint replacements, they've had bypass surgery, they've had other illnesses that do not allow them to work as aggressively as they once did. So you have to look at where you're investing your money to get the optimal health and wellness. And for me and my children, my family, of course, we invest into our food, because that's going to allow us to have the health and the time to enjoy the wealth that we accumulated. So how are we still farming in 2014? How are we growing crops without this nutritionally dense soil? Okay, well, it's real simple. We've gone to nitrogen and synthetic compounds. These are made in a lab. Okay, now the goal of the nitrogen is just to get things to grow, but nitrogen in and of itself does not give you the minerals that your body's looking for: your calcium, your copper, your selenium, and all the other trace minerals that we can't even identify, but are in the foods that we eat based on them drawing them from the ground. And I'll get into a little more about how we as humans and also plants are able to absorb those nutrients from the plants, of course, from the soil, and humans from the GI tract as the food passes through our GI tract. So what about the minerals? This modern miracle, exacts a price. Runaway nitrogen is suffocating wildlife in lakes and estuaries, contaminating groundwater, and even warming the globe's climate. As a hungry world looks ahead to billions more mouths needing nutrition-rich, nitrogen-rich protein, how much clean water and air will survive our demand for fertile fields? Now, anyone who's from the Jersey Shore knows about Barnegat Bay. Nothing grows in Barnegat Bay anymore except for algae and sea nettles. Why? Because in order to have a nice green lawn here down the Jersey Shore, people go out and put nitrogen on their lawns. Well, what happens when it starts to rain? The nitrogen runs off, goes down the end of my street, goes into the catch basin, and goes right out into the Glimmerglass. The Glimmerglass is a small estuary down the block from my house, which eventually leads into the Manasquan River and does make its way out to the ocean. So even though there's a lot of nitrogen going down my block with the rainwater, the Manasquan River is able to flush us out. So we're not so bad. We still have fish in the Manasquan River, and you can swim in the Manasquan River without being attacked by sea nettles. However, Barnegat Bay is a closed bay. It only has two inlets, one all the way down in Barnegat, which is about, I don't know, let's make up a number, 40 miles south of here, and the canal that connects the Manasquan River to Barnegat Bay. So it really doesn't get flushed out. So therefore, there's no clam life, there's no sea life. The only thing that's growing in there are these stinging nettles, which are like jellyfish, and algae. So it's not due to pollution per se, it's due to all the nitrogen runoff. So we are paying the price for that. And if you're a clammer or you try to harvest from the sea, and you're trying to grow things in Barnegat Bay, they don't grow, they die. So, what are some other health problems from inorganic fertilizers? Well, in a study at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, they discovered that common fertilizer nitrate, when tested on mice, caused endocrine, immune, and nervous system malfunctions. Birth defects were also a common occurrence in mice forced to drink nitrate-laden water. Not only can inorganic fertilizer cause health problems, it can even lead to death if ingested. Now, what is one of the biggest problems we have with regards to our immune system? Okay, well, we have people who are constantly getting colds and other illnesses due to a depressed immune system. Okay, and one of the biggest problems with a depressed immune system is cancer. Okay, so your body usually can fight off a lot of what hits you with a strong immune system, but when your immune system becomes compromised, it leads into a whole host of problems. Now, we also see a lot of autoimmune disease. We see rheumatoid arthritis. We see fibromyalgia. We see lupus. We see multiple sclerosis. Okay, so these are things that I see even in the fitness world, people coming in with these autoimmune diseases. As far as the endocrine system, well, the two big ones that I see with regards to that are type 2 diabetes and also women unable to conceive because their hormones are so thrown off that their body does not allow them to conceive. So what do we have? We have all these clinics that help couples have children. But again, if your hormones are being thrown off by the food that you eat and the water you drink and the way that your food is grown, you're fighting a losing battle. And of course, there's other nervous system malfunctions. We also talked about multiple sclerosis and so forth. So you can see that even though these crops are still hitting our marketplace, they're just not nutritionally dense like they were 100, 200 years ago. So there are organic farming out there, and we're very fortunate here in this part of Monmouth County, out in Howell and Farmingdale and Jackson. We do have still a lot of organic farming going on. It's grown from seeds that are not genetically modified. They're heirloom seeds. And every Thursday between 4th of July and Labor Day, the farmers come to town with their crops. And this is where it's very important to try to eat seasonally because there are certain foods that are going to be here next week and there'll be different foods at the end of the summer. For example, I can think of probably there's some type of fruits or melons. I know apples come out in the fall. Peaches end up usually somewhere in July and August. So you have to start to look to eat seasonally. Now, a lot of what's going to be in the farmer's market are the greens, which are very, very important for you to eat, okay? You know, if you take the clock back 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 years ago before we started farming, what did we exist on? We existed mostly on animal proteins and greens because greens were abundantly available. If you have a garden in your backyard and you cut down the kale and the spinach and the lettuce, it grows back very, very quickly. Whereas if you are harvesting tomatoes, which happens to be a fruit, you get one crop of tomatoes, you pull the tomato off the vine, another tomato doesn't grow. So there's a distinct growing season where the greens tend to grow for a much longer period of time. You have lettuces that actually start at the end of March, beginning of April, and cabbage, which goes all the way into November, December. So these are very nutritionally dense foods that traditionally can be grown on organic farms. So there's a lot of foods that are available to us, but you know, not everything has to be, you know, a tomato or a potato or something that only yields you a crop for a very short amount of time. So here's a glimpse of a solution on a farm just outside a small town in Harlan, West Iowa. Here, 90 cattle graze on green pasture, and a few hundred pigs root about in beds of straw surrounded by fields of alfalfa, corn, soybeans, oats, and barley. So here, I use an example of a farmer that I read about who spreads no nitrogen fertilizer on these fields, at least not the kind that comes from factories. Instead, it's added biologically by nitrogen-fixing bacteria that live in the nodules of the roots of the legume crops like soybeans, alfalfa, and a cover crop of clover that this farmer plants in the early fall and then tills it back into the soil before he plants in the spring. So this is one method of organic farming. There's other farmers that raise sheep, and sheep, as they eat, they deposit their fertilizer, which gets into the ground, and it helps with the growing season for the next year. Susan and I have been fortunate enough to take the kids to Pennsylvania to see an organic dairy farm, and it's the strangest thing you ever wanted to see. They have a system there where you don't even need a farmer or a farm hand to milk the cows. The cows actually know they need to be milked twice a day, and they all have these collars around their neck, and they come in from the field and they go into a chute, and one cow at a time, a little door opens, only one cow goes in, and there's a bed of hay, sweet grass, whatever the cows like, and they sit in front of it and they start to eat it, and there's an automatic milking device that comes out and cleans the udders, milks the cow, tests the milk before it goes into a collection basin, and then when the cow's done being milked, the door shuts on the hay. The cow realizes, well, I'm not getting any more food. Another door opens, that cow leaves, and another cow comes in, and that happens all day long. Now, because they have this device around their neck, the computer knows when this cow needs to get milked again. So if a cow comes in before it's due to be milked, none of the hay, the sweet hay that the cow's looking for, will be available to him, so he'll just walk out, and the next cow comes in. And I'm sure there's people who supervise and stuff, but it was the darndest thing to see. But those cows are eating grass. Now, it's very, very important you understand that there's a big difference between a grain-fed cow and a grass-fed cow. Grain is typically what's called a hot food to a cow. Cows are ruminants. They have 4 stomachs, and they're very good at digesting grass. They're really not good at digesting grain or corn or soy or other grains that they might be fed. And the reason they're fed those grains is because you can take the cows, you can put them into a small feedlot, and instead of having one cow per 50 square feet, you probably can fit 2 or 3 cows, so they can get them in a lot closer. You don't need as much room. You also don't need big, wide open, grassy fields. You could put them basically almost in an inner city where the slaughterhouses are, so they don't have to come from the fields. You already kind of have them all together. But I want you to think of grain for a cow is like you and I sitting, and all we get to eat all day is jalapeno peppers. Now, they may be delicious and they're fun to eat, I guess, but if you had to eat them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, eventually you develop gastritis. Your stomach would not be able to tolerate that if that's all you had to eat. So the cows get gastritis from the grain that they eat, and the way that that's cured is before they're sacrificed to be made into steaks and hamburgers. The veterinarian needs to come in and give them an antibiotic to help with the gastritis. The cows are also living in very close quarters and, quite frankly, living in their own excrement, so it's very hazardous. And again, they tend to have a lot of disease because they live in such close quarters. Okay, kind of like the tenements of the turn of the century New York City, where 8 people lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. If one got sick, they all got sick. So I kind of got off topic here. Let me get back to where I was. Okay, so a lot of the food that we eat is not coming from that little organic farm in Farmingdale or Howell, New Jersey. A lot of the foods that we eat come from Asia and South America, and it looks a little different from the farmer's market in Manasquan. I want you to look at that boat, and that actually is a big shipping. Those are all shipping containers, and anyone knows how big a shipping container is. They're absolutely huge, and there must be, on this screen here, there must be 50 shipping containers there, all filled with food coming from Asia and South America. So when was it picked, and what was the condition of the food when it was picked? Was it ripe? Was it not ripe? I guarantee you it wasn't ripe. It probably looks something like this. Fruits and vegetables picked before ripeness are nutritionally deficient. Let me say that one more time. Fruit and vegetables picked before ripeness are nutritionally deficient and lose what little they had in the process of being shipped. Dr. Paul Sullivan has said that an orange rolling on the ground and hitting a wall, okay, can lose almost half of its vitamin C. So can you imagine the food being jostled around? How much vitamin C is left in that orange that came from South America? Not a whole heck of a lot. The amount of an, okay, we're going to get into RDA because everyone talks about RDA. Now let me define that for you. RDA is the amount of essential nutrient, such as a vitamin or mineral, that has been established by the National Nutrition Board of the National Academy of Science as adequate to meet the average daily nutritional needs of most healthy persons, specific to age groups and genders. For your information, these numbers are influenced by the AMA, the American Dairy Board, sugar manufacturers, and of course the seed manufacturers, namely Monsanto. It should also be known that these numbers reflect the minimum to prevent disease, not to raise a growing and thriving child. The RDA started out in a very interesting way. We had a lot of canned food and a lot of milled grains, because grains are, believe it or not, in their natural state, are very nutritionally dense. They're very good. But in the milling process, to turn it into flour, to make it into bread and so forth, it loses a lot of its vitamins and minerals in that processing. So we were sending all these guys off to World War I, and they weren't passing their physical. They were nutritionally deficient. They were weak. They had things like rickets. Most of these people on this call have never seen rickets. I learned about it in college. I never saw rickets before. It's usually what we would consider a third world type disease. But here we have all these strong, young, robust American guys going into the army, eating all this canned food and this processed food to send them off to war, and all of a sudden they're all getting sick. So they realized that in the milling process, they were losing a lot of their vitamins and minerals. So if you look on a loaf of bread today, what does it say? It says enriched with iron and all these vitamins and minerals. They have to put it back in because they removed most of it in the milling process and the processing of the food. The same thing with the canned goods. They were putting them in these cans, and they weren't treating the cans properly. They may not have been rinsing them out when they're in the manufacturing process, and they were having all kinds of health issues. So nowadays, when you look at organic canned food, there's a BPA-free lining, because we don't need that stuff leaching out into our food either. So one of the companies I think of is Amy's. Amy's makes some canned foods, but it uses a BPA-free liner. So something to look for if you're going to have canned foods. In our home, canned foods are an emergency type food. There's no cans of food in my house. Everything is fresh. We go to the supermarket, we get what we need. Okay, let's talk about GMO and why should you care. GMO stands for genetically modified organism. It is not what was here for thousands of years, but rather modified in a lab to be resistant to the chemicals that are sprayed on the plant, such as a spray would be the herbicide called Roundup. Monsanto made a seed that produces a plant that does not die when sprayed with Roundup. Now, our microvilli in our stomach, or in our small intestines rather, are barcode readers, just like at the supermarket, okay? And they're in our small intestines. And when a genetically modified organism product hits the small intestines and our barcode reader does not recognize the food, it treats it like a foreign protein and thus begins the autoimmune response. Autoimmune is lupus, MS, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, and many, many more. So when I counsel my clients in nutrition who come to me with rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, MS, lupus, diabetes, and I tell them they got to switch to all organic foods, sometimes I get looks like I'm crazy. It couldn't come from that. It must be I have bad genetics. No, you're eating lousy food. There's no other way for me to put this. Okay, now, could you have a genetic predisposition to one of these diseases? I don't know. But there's certain things in this world I can control. I can't control my genetics per se, but I sure as heck can control what I put in my mouth. So it's really, really important that if you're suffering from one of these diseases, that we start to make changes. I'll give you another great example. And when I started telling this to people, they thought I was nuts. I have a lot of clients that come through that have fibromyalgia. I started looking at their diets. One of the things I see very commonly, especially in women, is fibromyalgia. And I go through their diet and I start picking out, okay, you're drinking how many diet sodas a day? Or you're putting how many packets of ecgl or sweet and low in your coffee or your tea, or you're chewing gum, sugar-free gum. They're all loaded with aspartame. I can tell you that I've taken people off their chewing gum and off their diet soda, and their fibromyalgia went away. I believe they had aspartame poisoning, pure and simple. And if you go online, you Google aspartame poisoning, you'll get article after article on it. This is not something I made up in the last 5 minutes. This is a very real thing. So when we talk about nutrition and eating properly, for the moment, forget about optimal health and wellness. How about we just stop you from being sick all the time? Okay, so why do we want organic crops that are not sprayed with pesticides, fungicides, and herbicides? Okay, let's talk about why spraying a plant makes it much, much weaker. Plants have natural immune systems, and these immune systems are called salvestrols. Salvestrols are used for people who have cancer or had cancer to stop tumors from coming back. It's very effective treatment. Okay, so keep that in mind as we're talking about this. When pesticides are sprayed on a plant, along with other herbicides and fungicides, they do not allow the plant to develop salvestrols, which produces a weaker seed. And in addition, when either the farm animal or we humans consume the plant, we do not get salvestrols in our diet. We do not harness the plant's natural immune properties, and we get weaker too. Okay, it's just like a guy who's taking testosterone. If you're taking testosterone, your body will stop producing testosterone. Okay, so what happens when if you were to stop taking the testosterone gel or the injection? Well, it takes a while for your body's systems start kicking back in, and it makes it a lot weaker. The other problem we have is, and I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but since I opened this door, I'll close it real quick. If you're someone who's on testosterone, you sit a lot, you're not active, you're not going to be able to utilize the testosterone anyway. Okay, in our body, we have an enzyme called aromatase. So when you have excess testosterone and you're not using it, your body will produce more aromatase and it'll convert to estrogen. And what do we know about estrogen with men? It makes them increase their body fat significantly. Okay, it also causes a man's chest to grow in an unnatural way. So I believe that the idea of just giving someone testosterone because they happen to be low on a test is not the right way to go. The right way to go with someone who tests low for testosterone is to change their diet, because if we can lower their percent body fat, their estrogen levels will go down. Start exercising so your body will naturally want to produce more testosterone to accommodate the amount of exercise you're doing. And that's how you fix low T. You don't take gels and potions and powders and stick them under your arms. It doesn't work. And I can show you that time and time again. And by the way, I've had athletes and bodybuilders having a lot of significant issues with injecting themselves with testosterone. And that's a whole lecture for another day. So for those who said, I get all my nutrition through food, how sure are you now? Okay, so let's talk about nutrition insurance, because that was the title of tonight's talk. So we all pay insurance all the time. We all pay it monthly. We have auto insurance. You have health insurance. You have homeowners insurance. You have a life insurance policy. And if you own a business, you pay for business insurance. So if you add all that up, your health insurance for a family is at least $1,500 a month, probably more like $2,000 a month. Now, for those of us who have jobs and we pay $200-300 a month, you should be thanking your boss tomorrow when you go in, because if you own a business, $1,500 a month is probably the very low end. of what you have to pay for health insurance. Then you have homeowners insurance plus flood if you live down here at the Jersey Shore. Life insurance could be $200 to $300 a month, and that's a minimum, especially when you start to get around my age. Auto insurance. Okay, if you have kids, $100 to $300 a month is a joke. It's probably double that. And business insurance could be $200 to thousands of dollars a month. So if you're spending all your money on all these different insurances, what's the one thing you hope? You hope you never need to use it, right? But you pay it because something could go wrong. How about if you were to pay for something that would have a positive change starting tomorrow, and we call that nutrition insurance? So people say to me sometimes, well, I've heard all this bad stuff about vitamins, or if I take vitamins, upsets my stomach. Let me handle that first one first, the one I talked about, people saying I don't digest their vitamins well. Okay, the reason for that is that the coating that may be on the vitamins, your body's not able to break it down. So that can cause some stomach upset. And I will tell you, I've seen x-rays of people on synthetic vitamins where you can look at their colon and you can see the vitamin still intact. So obviously they're getting nothing from that. And I won't name brands, but they come in silver and for men and women, and you've seen them on the shelf. What's the other problem we have? A lot of the vitamins, especially the vitamins A, D, E, and K, they're all fat-soluble vitamins. And fat-soluble means they need to be brought into the body on a molecule of fat. So when you look at a tablet, say of vitamin D or vitamin E, which a lot of people use, you can't see the vitamin in there. Most of what you see in there is the carrier oil. If they use a cheap carrier oil, it can become rancid very, very easily, just like vegetable oil becomes rancid very, very easily. Okay. If it becomes rancid, it will oxidize the vitamin that's in it. So when you take it, you're getting the net nothing. So when someone says to me, well, I can get my vitamin D, a big bottle for $10, remember, you always get what you pay for. Okay. So you may be paying $10 and getting nothing. So what has happened? Well, the New York State Attorney General's office targeted a lot of these major retailers, tested their vitamins, and found out that what they said was in these vitamins, when they tested them, they weren't there. Now, one of the reasons they weren't there, because, for example, with vitamin D and vitamin E, if they used a cheap carrier oil and the vitamin originally that was put in there became oxidized when the fat or the oil went rancid, of course there's not going to be anything in there. Okay, so the authorities said they had conducted tests on top-selling store brands of herbal supplements at 4 national retailers, GNC, Target, Walgreens, and Walmart, and found that 4 out of the 5 of the products did not contain any of the herbs on their labels. The test showed that these pills labeled medicinal herbs often contain little more than cheap fillers like powdered rice, asparagus, houseplants, and in some cases substances that could be dangerous to those with allergies. So I have the URL code there if you want to go ahead and Google that. You'll also see that. It was on the news, it was in the newspapers, and all over the internet. So the question is, who can I trust with my vitamins and supplements? Okay, now here's a picture. Everyone knows the guy on the left. That's Troy Aikman. He played quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. And if you watch Fox on the weekends during the football season, you see him and Joe Buck doing their football calls on Channel 5 in New York. The fellow on the right, his name is Logan Stout, and he's the CEO of a company called ID Life, a company that we represent at KM Fitness. And they were interviewed back in February on this very same topic that I'm talking about tonight. And again, I gave you the URL. So if you want to go and watch it, you certainly can. Or if you want me to email it to you, I will. And they discussed this very same problem. So you want to find a reputable source from reputable people who are going to give you a money back guarantee, right? These are all things that reputable people do. If you don't like their service, you return their product, or you keep their product, they give you your money back and you move on. But you also want to, it's got to be more than that. You got to look for the studies. You got to look for the research. You know, how many clinical studies are being used to determine what people should and shouldn't take? Who's doing the formulating? What's their background? You know, are the team that's doing the formulation, are they looking at the research? ID Life looks at 540 different medical journals every single month to see if there's any changes in policy and procedure that they need to make based on reputable research. Now, what is reputable research? Okay, I'm at the University of Buffalo, 1987, doing a study, okay? And I come up with significant results. Before that paper can be published in a medical journal, usually what happens is it's sent out to 3 or 4 of your peers, different colleges, different universities. You tell them what methodology you used, what were your procedures, and they have to come up with similar or the same results that you got. So it's called peer-reviewed literature or peer-reviewed studies. And if your peers agree with you, that it can be published. Okay, and that's how juried or peer-reviewed literature gets produced. So it's very, very important that the source of your information is reputable. Okay, in the pharmaceutical industry, typically what happens, because they're trying to get things to market quickly, is all the study is done in-house. And if they show significance and the FDA approves it, the drug gets on the market. It's only after the peer review process starts that sometimes you have recalls on medications. So if you're in my studio Monday through Friday and we're watching, I don't know, MSNBC or Fox News or whatever, the first commercial you see when they go to break is this new product, this new pharmaceutical that you need to take, and talk to your doctor about it. And then the next commercial comes on is from a lawyer who says, have you taken this medication and had these results? You can be part of our class action lawsuit. So, you're really paying, stealing from Peter to pay Paul, so to say, with some of these medications you're on. They may work, they may not work. If they don't work, it can be really harmful. Okay. You ever listen to the side effects on some of these things? You have dry eyes. Well, side effects could be death, blindness. I'm like, nah, I'd rather have dry eyes. It's really pretty ridiculous, some of the side effects that can occur. So there's no side effects with an organic apple. There's no side effects with grass-fed beef. So, when people say to me, I can eat whatever I want because my doctor has me on Lipitor for my cholesterol and has me on glucophage for my type 2 diabetes, I want to bang my head against the wall. You don't have to be the victim of all these different medications and not having optimal health and wellness. We're here to turn it around. And this is how we're going to do it. So what is nutrition insurance? My definition is the consumption of a pharmaceutical grade mineral, vitamin, or other food supplement that are recommended to an individual based on a HIPAA compliant assessment, which investigates age, gender, geographic location, what season is it, because that's dependent on how much sunlight you're going to get, current diet, sleep patterns, activity levels, body composition, percent body fat, family medical history, and the individual's past medical history, including current health conditions and current over-the-counter and prescription medications. I'll give you a perfect example of how important this is. I'll give you 2 good examples, okay? If you're on a cholesterol-lowering medication and you have some depression, taking St. John's wort with that cholesterol-lowering medication can cause you to have severe depression and possibly suicide. That'd be something that would be important to know, because St. John's wort has been advocated as something that helps with depression. Well, you don't want to take the 2 of them together because it can make your depression 10 times worse. So when you walk into a big pharmacy, drugstore, whatever, unless there's a reputable pharmacist there who's going to be able to guide you and direct you, and I do know some very reputable pharmacists out there that can help you and guide you and direct you. And by the way, I'm not putting down the whole pharmaceutical industry. There's a need for it. What I'm saying is that you need to optimize your food and your exercise and your sleep and your hydration so that you can minimize the effect of the pharmaceuticals you may need. Okay? There are some very useful pharmaceuticals out there, But to take something just for the sake of taking it without trying to improve your health and wellness, to me, is kind of silly. What's another one? If you're on Synthroid, you can't take any minerals 4 hours before or after it because you'll minimize the effect of the Synthroid. A good pharmacist is going to be able to counsel you on that. That's very, very important. So these are the things that you need to know with regards to nutrition insurance. You need a good pharmaceutical grade vitamin mineral supplement that'll help you to have optimal health and wellness. Now, does this technology even exist? Well, it didn't when this picture was taken. Here's Molly and Michael. This picture is at least 10 years old, maybe even longer than that, because see, they get along in this picture. Actually, they're going to Europe together in the next 2 weeks, so it should be an interesting experiment. And they really do get along real well. I'm very blessed to have two beautiful children. But yes, this technology does exist and exists today. And it exists with a company that we partner with called ID Life. ID Life's product has no soy, no GMOs, no casein, no lactose, no artificial sweeteners, no food chemicals and food additives, and is wheat-free, gluten-free. Okay, and here's some more good news. Okay, we have an assessment. Let me go through the assessment. So I talk about this. We are all individually designed. Shouldn't your supplements and vitamins be designed specific to you as well? So the assessment starts with this. It asks you about your height, your weight, your age, your gender, allergies, what season it is, what geographic location you are, how much sunlight do you get. It asks you about your dietary patterns, your fruits, your vegetables, protein, fat, sweeteners, and processed foods. Lifestyle, do you drink? If so, how much? Do you smoke? Are you an ex-smoker? How is your sleep? Do you wake up in the morning? Do you feel like you got an adequate amount of sleep? Or do you feel like you still need a couple more hours? Physical well-being, how much do you exercise? What's your joint pain like? What's your bone health? What's your immune system like? Medical conditions, both pre-existing conditions and injuries. And medications you may be on, over-the-counter and prescription. It's going to give you a video result of your assessment, which I think is great, and provide you with a free report that you could print out. And all of this is free up to this point. There's no obligation. You can go online, take your assessment, get your videos, get your free report, and get your free recommendations. Here's your printed report. Okay? Now, the video is to explain the vitamin supplement recommendations, and it's based on over 7,000 clinical studies. And the vitamins, what to take, when to take them, and the amount and the why. Now, to me, what got me the most intrigued with these vitamins was the why. So why am I taking this? Well, for example, in this one you're looking at here, and this is just an example of why you might be taking a spirulina complex. And the first one is that your bone health is satisfactory. Another reason could be that your vegetable intake is only 2 to 3 times a day. So it'll give you a brief explanation, and then where it says evidence, you're going to get the actual medical journals that information was taken from, so you can highlight the medical journal from where it was taken, put that in a Google search, and it'll bring up the article for you. And again, ID Life looks at 540 juried medical journals every month to make sure that the policies and procedures that are put in place by the company are in line with the current research. And I think that's fantastic. And there is no other company that does this. So if you want to take your free assessment, you can go to mikekeenan520.idlife.com to take your free assessment and get your free results. Oops, so I need to redirect you. Sorry, guys. Dun, 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 yeah, dun, dun, dun. Okay, so everyone should have been redirected to my website, and if not, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to go back. Sorry, guys. I'll put this back up again so everyone can see it. Okay. We're also having a couple things that I'll mention. I might have mentioned this at the beginning, but I'll mention again in the end in case anybody came on late. Tomorrow night, my business partner Jim Dowd will be coming over to my studio in Manasquan. So, if, like I said, if you're from the Southern Monmouth, Northern Ocean County, and you'd like to meet Jim and find out a little bit more about this opportunity with ID Life, we'll be there at 7:30. You can give me a call or you can drop me an email. Everyone has that information. It's on our website at keenanmedicalfitness.com. And we're having a special this month for $199. We have two options. You can either get your first month of our ID nutrition by taking the assessment, looking at the recommendations, and getting your nutrition that way. You'll also get 5 sample packs of some of our other consumable products that have the protein shake, a product called Energy, which is a vitamin mineral electrolytes with a little bit of caffeine, but it gives you like a triphasic approach. It doesn't hit you with the caffeine all at once like our Energy Shot does. We have another product called Energy Shot that is like a 5-hour energy, and it's the same amount of caffeine as a 20-ounce coffee, except it's delivered in a 2.5-ounce shot. So it does hit you a little harder. We also have something called appetite suppressant chews, which I think are really great. They help to take the edge off hunger. Remember we talked earlier in the year how we have hunger, energy, and cravings. Well, it takes the edge off your hunger, but more importantly, it stops your sugar cravings. And last but not least, we have something called sleep. Now, we talked about sleep earlier in this Eat Clean Get Lean program. We all know that if our cortisol levels are real high, we can't fall asleep. So the sleep product helps to lower your cortisol levels with 2 active ingredients. One's called L-theanine, one's called 5-HTP. You'll lower your cortisol levels, your body will naturally produce more melatonin, and the sleep product also gives you a little melatonin kick. But it doesn't make you feel druggy or hungover or get up in the middle of the night and eat food and drive a car like some of the other sleep medications. Okay, so that's the one option you have. The other option we have for $199, you can take what's called our ID 28-day transformation. And I have tons of literature on that on our Facebook site at Keenan Fitness, or you can go right to our KeenanMedicalFitness.com page, and you can click on ID Life. You can learn all about that. But the 28-day transformation is a month's supply of the protein powder, the energy, and something called lean. And the way I describe lean to people is this. Lean and our appetite control chews go hand in hand. Just like medication that people take for asthma. Some people take a daily asthma medication, but they also have a rescue inhaler. Okay, so if you take your daily medication for asthma and you have an asthma attack, you need the rescue inhaler to help get you through that attack, right? Well, the lean is kind of like the long-term sugar craving effect. Again, it has a simple citrus extract called Avantrazine in it, which helps to maintain your body, or lower your body's craving for sugar. So that's your long-term effect. But if you need to get between breakfast and lunch, or lunch and dinner, and you don't want to eat again, you take an appetite control chew, and it satisfies your sugar craving at the moment, allowing you to get to your last meal. All right, guys, I'm going to shut this down because I went way past my half hour tonight. But I just wanted to make a case for those people who were out there thinking, everything I need, I can get from the foods I eat. I really want you to weigh that thought again and see if, for the price of a cup of coffee or less, if you took your nutrition insurance, then you could optimally know that you're getting those vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that you need, not just to have optimal health and wellness, but to also counteract some of the medications you may be on. One of the things I always talk to people about is if you're on a cholesterol-lowering medication like Lipitor or Crestor, you must take coenzyme Q10. Your body's ability to manufacture coenzyme Q10 is significantly reduced with taking the Crestor or the Lipitor. That's why one of the side effects for Crestor and Lipitor is muscle ache and muscle pain. Why is that? The mitochondria in your muscle cells needs coenzyme Q10 to function. If it's not getting it, it starts shutting down and the muscle starts to break down. And that's where the pain and the muscle ache comes from. And it could be fairly significant. I've had clients go on those products. They're working out, they're fine. They come in the next week and they can't do anything. I say, you got to get back to your doctor right away. Something is wrong. Something's changed. So these are the things that myself and a lot of other healthcare professionals we deal with every day. And it's important that you go back to reputable sources. Go back to the doctor who prescribed you the medication. Talk to your pharmacist. I'll give you a great reference. If you're not using her, I think you're crazy. If you live in the southern Monmouth, northern Ocean County area, and you're not going to Colfax Pharmacy in Belmar for the things that you need, I think you're out of your mind. Michelle's over there. She's extremely knowledgeable. She knows what to do, and she'll pick the first one to pick up the phone, speak to your doctor if you need to make changes in your medication. These are the kind of people that I talk about that really take their vocation seriously and do a fantastic job, as opposed to going to a big box store where you might save a couple dollars on your medication, but you need to go to a professional, someone who understands drug interactions and the efficacy of the different prescriptions. Because the truth of the matter is, some of the doctors only know as much about the pharmaceutical that you're taking as what the last drug rep told them, and that's not it's a biased opinion. You want to go to an independent type situation where the opinion of the person is based on science, not on marketing. Okay, so I'll end on that. Everybody have a great night. I'll be on Facebook if anybody has any questions, and I'll talk to you real soon. Take care. Let me get out of this. And I'll go back to here, go back to there. Have a good night.